The following is a discussion between myself and my partner Danielle and her experience as someone living with anxiety. And me being someone who's never really been challenged by anxiety before, I had some questions for her to clarify her experience and what anxiety is, and I found it both interesting and insightful. And I hope that if you've never dealt with anxiety before as well, you might have some good takeaways from this discussion. Enjoy. I wanted to do a video regarding anxiety because I know that some people have mentioned it in some of the comments, some of the videos, but I'm certainly not qualified to talk about it. And I think there's a misunderstanding about it. Because when I think about anxiety, like prior to meeting you and your experiences, I associated anxiety to what was my existential grief, the discomfort you feel before an interview, and it's circumstantial, and it's not an overwhelming feeling that you embody. It's just a feeling of discomfort. And so I think talking to you was the first time I got a firsthand experience of someone with anxiety to kind of clarify how wrong I was about what it was. And so I'm curious to know, what would you say, like, what's the experience of anxiety? Like, what's the sensation in your body? And maybe like what could you relate it to for someone like me who's never experienced it before?
So I'll clarify first, like I'm not qualified to talk about anxiety that way, but I can share my experiences of what it's like to have anxiety and to work through it. And your question about like what does it feel like?
Yeah, like what's your experience of it? Like what's the sensation that you feel? And maybe in a way they could describe it so that someone like me could get an idea about what it feels like.
So it's exactly what sometimes it's exactly what it's like right before a job interview or something. So it's that overwhelming feeling like, oh my gosh, this is big. But in my case, it's like getting triggered by little things where it's like, oh, I have to go check my emails. Oh my gosh, what could be in the emails? And then it just builds and escalates to a point where I'm just like, I can't even function. I'm just like, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like the same pressure that like you're about to do a job interview in a moment for just opening an email and like about to start the day, and it just progresses to everything else, what the emails could mean, what this could, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like it just overwhelms me, and then because I also have depression, it means like it can become me just going, all right, I think I'm just gonna pull the covers over,
but
and we'll try again tomorrow.
Is it a physical feeling?
It is a physical feeling.
Like where your muscles feel weak or your energy is low, or is it a mental feeling of just like cloudiness or stress or what?
So like my heart rate can go up a bit. It's more like I don't feel weak in the sense that like all my strength just leaves me in this moment where it's like I feel faint. It's just the emotional stress. Like it's like my head just becomes filled with all the what ifs and everything is just flowing at the same time, and I'm just like, I can't even think. My thoughts are so much louder now because like everything that could be or would be, like everything's just going at the same time, and it's just like it feels too much. So it's more emotional response, I guess, to things.
And like, because recently you've had issues with like trying to get into work, and it's like not getting into it and then going, it's getting started, right?
Yeah.
And so like you said when you open the screen, you feel like the anxiety comes on.
Yeah.
And is it like fear of like I'm not gonna be able to get this done?
Yeah, it's fear of like, oh, I'm so stupid. I don't even know what I'm doing. Can I even do this? Oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is not gonna work out. What's the point of doing this? Like, is there a purpose to this?
Right.
Like, why am I doing this? Oh, such a loser. That's why you're doing this, because you're trying to, this is not gonna work. And then you just go down this rabbit hole, and like the trigger for me was like me just touching my laptop and saying, okay, I'm gonna try to do this. It just brought me to that place of like overwhelming sadness and just like, I can't do this. There's no possible way that I can do this.
Right.
And then I sit down and then I crawl back into bed, and then I feel guilty because the only thing that I'm thinking about is you need to get your work done. You need to get your work done. You need to finish this.
Right.
And it's this thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to try. Oh, you can't do it. But you need to get this done. And it's like, when you're not doing it, you're still thinking about it, and it overwhelms your thoughts because you're just like, oh, you're such a loser. You're still not doing it. And then when you attempt to do it, it's like, oh, you can't do it. You can't do this. And you're just like, Yeah, back and I've like my counselor once said like depression and anxiety are like best friends.
Yeah.
And so like depression takes over and it's like, I'm just gonna.
Cause see, the difference is like when I experience existential grief, whatever you want to call it, I don't like. It's not like it stops me from doing things. I'm still able to maintain my habits. I just feel more of a, what's the point of it all?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm questioning the purpose, but not my ability to do it. If that makes sense. But so like, I don't know maybe I don't remember right, but I feel like we've been together for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it was maybe 2 years into our relationship that I really started to hear you mention more about anxiety.
Yeah.
So do you feel, and I know that it's not something that you openly share, like just
Yeah.
in any other circumstance. So what do you feel is like the reason? Like, do you feel embarrassed about it, or do you think it maybe not devalues you, but kind of makes you appear weak? Like, what's the sensation you get regarding speaking about it? Because you really didn't tell me about it until like way further into a relationship.
Well, I wasn't having a lot of problems with it. Like I had a recent trigger that caused this whole thing to kind of spiral out of control. But I grew up West Indian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And mental health is not a thing.
Right,
There's no
right.
mental health. There's just normal physical health. And everybody has stress in life, so you need to be able to deal with it. That's the other part. Like mental health is like everybody feels anxious, everybody feels depressed, but you get up and you go the next day and you get your work done. Like it's not taken seriously. And so with like my family, it's something that I've learned to hide very well. Like maybe 10 or more years ago, I had like a sexual assault issue that resulted in depression.
Right.
And no one in my family knew that I was severely depressed. That every time it could be like a random like commercial would come on, and then I just sit there and cry, and then like somebody else is in the room, and you're just like, go for some water. You want water? And like you go into the kitchen and you finish the cry, you wipe your face off, you're like, no redness. Look at your eyes, and you're like, you go back in, and I don't think anybody was aware, and I knew I had to hide it. And it was just like in my room, in my spaces where I was safe, where I felt safe to express myself, which was being depressed. That I was able, and like I was medicated. Like it wasn't like I was just feeling sad. This was like a year of seeing a counselor, eventually going on antidepressants and that sort of thing. And so for a long time, it was shame for me. It was like really embarrassing to share it if other people, if I noticed somebody felt or felt weird about it, I might approach them and be like, it's okay. Like,
because people can't relate to it, so it's hard to bring it up.
Yeah, and
even I can't relate. Regardless of, no matter how many times you express it to me, like a lot of other things in life, it's a sensation that like you can describe it, but you can't embody it through being told like the effects of it. Like I can't understand it. And you bring up medication. Like that was my next question. What, if any, medication has helped, and what have you tried?
So I've done antidepressants, and I didn't like it. Like it takes a while for them to figure out what exactly. I'm not a doctor, right? So it takes a while for them to figure out how much to give you. Like it took a while, and I didn't enjoy that. And you have to be on it for a long time because your body has to get used to it or something like that. And so I didn't really enjoy that. Really, what was important is like I had few people that knew. Especially when I was going through like, well, let's talk about like anxiety. In speaking with a counselor, and I've always, even when I was hiding it from my family and friends, like I knew counseling and I knew what was wrong with me. I knew something was wrong. I knew I needed help. And so I've always gone like, I need to find somebody to speak to. And I prefer counselors that I don't know, because it's like, you don't exist in my real world. You're not a friend. You're not a family member. And it made it easier for me to hide it too, because there was an outlet for me that wasn't a part of my everyday life. And sorry, your question was...
Well, like, so basically, what have you tried to treat anxiety? And
so like with counselors and stuff, it's like, if I can find people to help me, help me do things that I once loved. So because I have depression as well, it's like stuff that I used to enjoy doing, I don't feel like doing it anymore. Like I don't see the pleasure, I don't see the joy. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do anything. I literally want to sit here and feel bad about not doing anything. And like, it's just a cycle of like, I can't function. And so getting friends involved in helping me with activities where they're like, oh, we're going to go for a walk. And it's like, I don't want to go. No, you need to go shower and we're going to go for a walk. And that was helpful. As you can see, we're painting.
Right.
And I used to like art and like drawing and that sort of thing, and it lost its pleasure for me. And then with anxiety specifically, even though I'm not very good, like sitting there for hours and just working through the stress, and it's just like, it gives me something else to think about and do. And then at the end of it, I still feel accomplished because it's like,
right,
I finished this. And if I finish this, maybe I can try something else. And so doing stuff like that has been helpful. Trying to maintain exercise has been helpful as well. Like, I had a friend who encouraged me when I was living in Winnipeg to do karate. And it's like, it meant I was being sociable. It meant people had to be around me. And it meant I was getting exercise in and I was going outside. And it kept me accountable to other people. And with my anxiety and with my depression, it's easier for me to be accountable to other people than it is to be accountable to myself. Like, so if I say, I'm going to get up and exercise, I can not do it. But if I'm like, I've promised somebody and they're showing up at my door, I guess it's my way. I almost want to hide my anxiety and hide my depression in a way as well.
Yeah, I think people can relate to that because I think, like, I'm the same way.
So it's like, okay, I'll just go out and pretend. I guess.
When you've taken medication, like, it's a well-known kind of fact that, like, the medication people take for, like, antidepressants and that type of stuff, like, sometimes it works. It helps kind of calm your mind down. Yeah. But then there's other side effects they don't like. They start disassociating from everything. This certain.
You feel like pulled within yourself a little bit, and like that, like you just felt awful and off, and it was just like.
And people say they like the effects as far as kind of helping the anxiety, but they don't like who they become because their personality gets more
muted. Yeah, you feel like you're beige and tan all the time in a way, and so you're choosing the bright colors. We're also painting because this is a topic that gives me anxiety, so we're gonna do something that helps to calm me down. Yeah, so I didn't enjoy that. I guess taking cannabis in some ways helps because it's like it chills me out enough, and I don't take like enough that I'm high. It just mellows me.
And it doesn't. I mean, in my experience, at least, it doesn't suppress your personality like as much.
No.
If anything, it kind of helps blossom it sometimes.
Yeah. So it kind of helps me feel a little bit more mellow, and it takes me out of the space, because it's like you don't want to start drinking or doing something like that, because like that can cause dependencies. And a lot of people with anxiety and depression, you end up drinking because it's a way to kind of cope, and like for a moment you forget. You don't really forget, but you kind of get to separate yourself from the problem a little bit.
And like at this point, like right now at this point in time, how often do you experience anxiety? And follow-up question, so how often do you experience it, and is there a trigger that causes it to kick in?
So like 2 years ago, there was a major trigger. Like I was walking alone and somebody followed me, and like I'm not going into details about it. But that, like, my heart was going, I couldn't calm down. And then right after that, something similar-ish happened, but not exactly the same, but it was still close enough to that incident. Right. And then I think there's a third one where you were on the phone with me. So it was like 3 incidents that like happened right away, and then my body started to just, every little thing is causing me to just go from 0 to 100. It's like somebody goes, "Hi," as a stranger comes up to me and they're like, "Hi, how are you doing?" Oh my god, no. And like my brain just goes on hyper.
So is it anticipation of the previous circumstance?
It's like I'm trying to be ready. It's like, oh, it's gonna happen again. It's gonna happen again.
So it's a defense mechanism.
It's a defense mechanism, and it's natural. You want to be more like, you've had this experience and you kind of recognize it, and so you want to like be ready.
Nip it in the bud right like before it happens.
But now I'm not. I've gone in overdrive. So it's like every interaction, I'm almost at the point of like, holy shit, this is gonna be it. Oh, be ready.
See, here's the thing. In my kind of outside perspective, it's like the anxiety experience is, or maybe your mind or your body's way of protecting you from an attack.
Yes.
But it triggers so easily, the anxiety becomes the attack, and that's why you have anxiety attacks.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So it's being triggered so often and so frequently. It's like my body has learned that this is the correct response because I keep like, it happens and then I'm like, oh, I need to, and so it becomes that response. Anything that's a little bit stressful, you're like, no, we gotta be prepared.
And the problem is, it probably like, from like our kind of simple like monkey brains, we experience it as having worked because like nothing's happened yet. So it's like, oh yeah, I experienced anxiety, I was on high alert, and all of a sudden, like I realized I was fine, and it almost reinforces itself. I would imagine.
Yeah, where it's like, we've protected. So like that was like the trigger, and now it's like, it's morphed its way into every other aspect of my life. So before it was just like, if I'm interacting with a guy alone, like if I'm walking or something by myself and someone is just being a little too friendly or something,
right,
it would get me really riled up. But now it's just like every single thing, working on emails, trying to get work done for myself, like writing. It's just like everything is just like, oh, this is gonna be hard, and my body's just.
See, that's one of my follow-up questions. Like, how does it? In like what ways, big or small, does it impact your day? Negatively, let's say, obviously.
Like, getting up in the morning is hard for me because like I just feel depressed and I feel like, what's the point? And then when I do attempt, like I open my laptop and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can't do this. I just can't. And it's just like, I feel overwhelmed with everything, and then I sit there, and because I can't, I've become overwhelmed with anxiety, where it's like, oh, you're not doing it, oh, you're failing because you're not doing it, and then it floods into, oh, you shouldn't shower because you probably need to get that other thing done first in the morning. You haven't done that yet, and you just sit there and you're still not doing anything, but you've been thinking about everything that you're supposed to do, and then it's like, okay, I guess we should eat, and so I overeat, where I'm like, okay, this is the only thing that brings me some pleasure right now, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
And every other activity becomes like, it's like, because I didn't start the day off right and I can't get the thing that was prioritized, it's like nothing else can be done. I guess we have to squash the day. And it's like, it's okay, but you need to get this stuff done. So tomorrow, we can't do it today. And it's like, every day is like, okay, tomorrow. And it's like, when you're asking me what activities, it's hard to say. It's like, maybe you could share like what you see me, I don't know. I don't know how to.
I mean, obviously, in my experience being closer to you on a day-to-day basis, like, the ability to be motivated enough to progress, I mean, that's a big deal, because it affects your ability to work on schoolwork, or if you have a job. I mean, like, even people that have little satisfaction from a job, which many people do, they don't wake up in the morning with a smile going to work. But it's like, it makes it that much more of a burden, and the inability to do the small things day to day leads to the inability to do big things in the day to day, and you don't get the progress.
Right, and then it's like, there's a point where like my anxiety and my depression was really bad, where it's like I wasn't able to do anything because I couldn't see the point of it, and there was nothing that could motivate me. There was like I really needed help, and I needed like a lot of stuff at that point, and it was just like no amount of meetings. I would just sit there, and I was indifferent about the consequences. I was just like, I can't do it. I don't want to. I don't understand the point of this. I just want to sit here in my unwashed clothes without any bra and just sit in bed all day. And it's just like, and then I want to feel bad about it forever. And it was just like, nothing was happening. Like, yeah. I wasn't able to function. I was just in bed, and I think
it cripples you a bit. Like,
it just crippled me. It was just like, I couldn't. Nothing was motivating me to do anything. I was like, I wasn't showering. The only thing I was doing was like eating and pooping.
Yeah.
See, my partner, what was the did you feel like you had to, sometimes I feel guilty because it's like, I feel like you have to carry me, you have to and by carry me, I mean motivate myself and you for the day sometimes. What's the hardest thing to understand or.
So like I think the way it impacts me is just more from the standpoint of I have this this ability to kind of push through things, but when there are times that I feel like I need the motivation, like if we need to go for a walk or go to the gym or stretch or something like that. If there are days that I need the motivation, I almost feel guilty to even let it be known that I'm having a weak day, because I know that every day you're having it's a week, like it's so I guess it maybe prevents me from quote unquote asking for help.
Right. I feel a lot of guilt with that. Like, I feel a lot of guilt with you. Like, it's like, oh, we don't want kids, but it's like, oh, you kind of have a kid in me, and like I feel, and then that makes me feel even more anxious and guilty. It's like, oh, I'm failing you, not just myself. It's like I'm failing you and what you expect from me and what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and there's like, and then I feel bad that you don't want to share, because like I know like sharing and like you don't know if to share or like how I'm gonna react, and it's just like I feel a lot of guilt.
Cause like I'm already not the type of person that, like, if I have a down day like a little bit or I'm not feeling well, that I'm gonna go to somebody. I just don't. This is not my personality.
Yeah.
But us being like partners and living with each other day to day, it's something that I would normally want to work towards because it's a weakness of mine. But yeah, it kind of prevent me from wanting to do that, because it's like, yeah, I'm having a bad day, but it's not as bad as your day, and you're having it every day.
Yeah. But it's like, if I have to help someone, I have no problem with that. So sometimes I feel like, oh, you could still come to me. I'm like, I'm okay with coming to me. It's just like, I sometimes have a bad day and I just need a little bit more time for me and dealing with my emotions. But with you and your stuff, I'm fine. I can deal with you.
No, that's the funny thing, that it's just so easy for you to deal with other people's challenges. So much so that no one would ever guess that you're going through that.
No.
So, I mean, I know it's a weird question, but do you see any positives that you can pull from the experience? Like, it's a weird question, but for me, like, yes, you have times where you're kind of down into a depressive existential state, and if I had to like, say like something that's kind of positive I can pull from that, is that when bad things do happen, I'm also kind of indifferent to it. It's like I don't get too high, but I also don't get too low. And like, is there anything about anxiety that it's like, not that you like, but that you see as a benefit of any sort? Again, I know it's a weird question.
I don't think I have any benefits. I think what it's made me more empathetic to people.
That's a good benefit.
Like, I can quickly recognize, I feel like. I can feel, same, game recognizes game. And, like, when I was a teacher in the Caribbean, I had one student, and, like, she would just be, I can tell she was struggling with something, and she was doing the same thing with me, where it's like, she was hiding something, and it's like, every time in class, she'd, like, just be too much, or, like, and one day, like, the class is over and I pull her aside and I was like, what's happening? She's like, I'm okay. I'm like, no, what's happening? And then she just starts crying immediately, because it's like, no, you're asking me what's happening.
Right.
It's like, something's happening. And like, we were able to bond over shared experience. Like, we both had issues with, I don't know, sexual abuse, that type of thing. And sexual assault.
Right.
And it made me more empathetic to people around me, and just understanding that, like, if somebody's a bit grumpy with you in the supermarket, they could be just having a bad day.
Right.
I don't know what the people that you interact with a lot, like waitresses, or like those people that are what's the word? Public facing, like in those type of positions.
Like servers?
Yeah, well, public facing, where they interact with a lot of people on a daily basis, and it's just like, it's made me more empathetic to just to understand that, like, one interaction with a person doesn't define them, and I can't tell if this year is a bad year for them, if the next 2 years, and the person you see in like 5 years could be somebody completely different.
Right.
And that's okay.
So it makes you more considerate, and I guess the thing that I see with myself when I'm struggling with something is that even if people aren't going through what you're going through, you at least consider the fact that they may be going through it. I know that's basically what you said. But just that, just knowing that people have complex lives, everyone has challenges, regardless of their status, their class, or sex.
Yeah.
How much money they make and all that stuff. Well, that's all the questions I have for you, but I appreciate you sitting down and talking about it. A, because like I've never asked too much in detail about it. B, because I think it's helpful for people to have a better understanding of it. And people have brought it up in comments and whatnot, and like my instinct was to like read up on it and then talk about it. But it's like that's not something that you educate yourself on. It's something that you experience, and it's best for people that have experienced it to discuss it. So, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so on the count of 3, you're gonna hold up your paintings. 1, 2, 3. Put it closer. Yes. A work of art. You'll get better.
You can tell who's feeling dark.
Yeah. I'm trying to be the light side.
Yeah, it looks fun.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's abstract. All right.